Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Now, leaked documents published today show that the new Home Secretary, Amber Rudd, used to be a director of 2 offshore companies based in the Bahamas. Her critics say the revelations are embarrassing for her and the government, which has prioritised cracking down on tax havens. A spokesperson for the Home Secretary told The Guardian, quote, "It is a matter of public record that Amber had a career in business before entering politics." Joining us now from Bristol is the Green MEP, Molly Scott-Cato. She's a member of the European Parliament's Inquiry Committee into the Panama Papers leaked, which were leaked earlier this year. Molly Scott-Cato, what has Amber Rudd done wrong?
Well, what we've heard overnight through these leaks is that she was a director of 2 asset management companies based in the Bahamas, which is a notorious tax haven. And of course, we don't have the details because part of the problem with tax havens is that there's a lack of transparency. So what we're calling for today is for Amber Rudd to come and make a much fuller statement, probably a statement which includes details of what the directorships are about and how much money she made from them. Because the suspicion is when people set up a company in the Bahamas, they're not doing it because of the weather, they're doing it because it's at the heart of a nexus of tax avoidance, and it's totally inappropriate for a government minister to be involved in something like that.
So do you believe that Amber Rudd, do you have evidence that Amber Rudd was involved in tax avoidance or tax evasion through these directorships?
Well, of course, these are the questions that need to be answered.
But do you have any evidence?
We have evidence that she was a director of 2 asset management companies in the Bahamas.
Is that illegal?
And that's not in itself illegal, but it doesn't smell right, really, does it, from a government who, when Theresa May came to power, she said she wanted an economy that worked for the many, not the few. She was going to clean up capitalism and so on. And I think she really needs to be asking Amber Rudd these sorts of questions, and we need more information in the public domain.
But you've said that the Prime Minister, it's difficult to see how she can continue to have confidence in Amber Rudd. But you can give us no examples this morning of any illegality or any dodgy tax work by Amber Rudd. So why? What evidence do you have? I mean, is this just an attempt to get some publicity? What evidence do you have that she's done anything wrong?
An awful lot of this is about appearance, and the appearance here is all wrong because the companies were based in the Bahamas. As I said, you know, there's reasons for that.
It was 1998.
It's a well-known tax haven. Yes, that's right.
2
They're
years.
historic. They're historic. Yeah. It's historic
when the
evidence.
law on tax havens was totally different from what it is now.
It all comes together to be a picture of a government which is not living up to the standards it set itself. And if Amber Rudd can come forward and defend herself against these allegations, let her do that.
So,
but I think, you know, this government says it's focused on tax transparency and ending tax avoidance, but it has somebody right at its heart that when David Cameron cropped up in the Panama Papers, came forward to defend him, and she didn't say at that stage that she also had been involved in business in tax havens, and I think she needs to explain why she didn't.
So because someone was a director of a company based in the Bahamas for 2 years, over 16 years ago, that makes them unfit to be a government minister, even though you can bring no sense of illegality or wrongdoing to this argument?
You may think that's fine. Theresa May may think that's fine, but I can tell you what, the people I represent are absolutely scandalised that this sort of behaviour goes on, whether it's rich companies or rich individuals avoiding paying tax. The fact
But what was her behaviour? Do you have any evidence that she actually earned any money from these 2 offshore funds for 2 years?
Well, that's exactly what protects people who engage in this sort of behaviour, because it's about secrecy. And she has said that we should have tax transparency, so let her come forward and show what she earned from these companies.
Shouldn't you be encouraging her to come forward? I perfectly take that point before you deign to call for the Prime Minister to get rid of her.
To be honest with you, I think the fact that she's been the director of 2 companies in the Bahamas is bad enough in itself, because it has the wrong kind of tone for a government that's supposed to be about cleaning up. That disqualifies her, even though it was 16 years ago and there is no evidence of wrongdoing or illegality. That really disqualifies her, in your view? I really think it's a question for Theresa May to answer. But
no, it's a question I'm asking you, since you're the one that's brought it up.
Yeah, because I think it's important that we are critical of government and we hold them to account for their past behaviour as well as their present behaviour. And I'm not impressed by a senior member of the government who has profited herself from activity in tax havens.
So if we discover that any Green has had a historic association with offshore tax havens, going back 15, 20 years, entirely legitimate, not illegal, but if we discover that, they would have to leave and step down from the Green Party.
Well, this is a question of a government minister. It's not somebody being thrown out of a party.
But surely the law's the same for both, or the attitude's the same. If it's wrong to do it, if you're a government minister, it must be wrong to do it if you're a Green activist campaigning against tax avoidance.
Of course it's wrong, and I would be very shocked if anybody in the Green Party had done something like that. But
Really?
the point I'm making here is that Amber Rudd is supposed to be upholding these high standards of, you know, this new clean form of capitalism that works for us all, and her past business record just doesn't live up to
But
that.
she has called for reforms on the offshore system now. She says it's important. And as you will know, since the year 2000, there have been huge changes to make tax havens much more transparent. There's OECD agreements. There are EU agreements. You're on the committee, so you must know all that. She herself has said that it's time we put 25 new measures in place by 2021 to get transparency on tax matters. What's your problem?
My problem is that the words sound really good, but current actions and past actions don't live up to them. For example,
hold on. The
public
British government
Can you just let me get to the end of one
government
point
has
about this?
taken the lead on the OECD common reporting standards for tax havens.
But the
so that's not
OECD
words, that's action.
The OECD standards don't go far enough, because what we need is public country-by-country reporting and full information to come out. And we still have tax havens where that information is being concealed. And we still have close relationships between those tax havens and the City of London, whether it's the British Virgin Islands or the Bahamas. And that's what just doesn't smell right from a government that says it's going to set itself higher standards.
If you discover that one of your Green Party donors has had at some stage, entirely legally, legitimately, been a director of an offshore company in a tax haven, will you hand the money back?
If it was down to me, I certainly would. I think it's not legitimate to accept money from people who've been involved in
Even
tax
if it was
avoidance
20 years
activity.
ago?
Well, I mean, I wasn't in control of the party 20 years ago, and I'm
No,
not
I
in
mean
control
that
of the party now. But
they were a
do.
director of a tax haven, a company based in a tax haven 20 years ago.
I do think we absolutely all in public life need to live up to the highest standards, and we also need to expect the highest standards of donors. But in this case, we're talking about the Home Secretary, so it's somebody who absolutely sets the tone for Britain.
She has nothing to do with tax policy.
She doesn't have anything to do with tax policy. She's one of the key ministers in government, and I really don't think it's good enough that, OK, let's hear from her and then let the public decide. But
Well,
I can
you've
tell
already
you the
made up your
public,
mind.
the public are not happy about people in that sort of level and position of responsibility actually acting in any way that smacks of tax avoidance, because there's a great deal of unhappiness out there about this issue.
All right, Molly Scott-Cato, thanks for joining us
Thank
from
you.
Bristol.